Welcome to the Meetings Podcast, the meeting organizer's podcast source for what's new in the meetings and events industry. Meetings Podcast is a conversation with a variety of voices that looks at events, meetings, and media. Meetings Podcast is sponsored by IMEX America, America's worldwide exhibition for incentive travel, meetings, and events.
Welcome back to the Meetings Podcast. This is Mike McAllen from Grashak Events and Media. Today, we are very happy to have Hillary Harris, Executive Director of Warner Brothers Studio Special Events. Hi, Hillary.
Hi, how you doing?
Thank you for talking with me, and thank you for getting here with, I know you're a very, very, very busy woman.
That's okay. It's my pleasure.
I'd like to read a quick little bio about you before we get started.
Okay.
So bear with me while you hear about yourself.
Oh, gosh, make it quick.
All right. Hillary Harris makes dreams come true, at least for a day or for an evening. As a visionary at the helm of Warner Brothers Studio Special Events, a full-service event production department specializing in entertainment, corporate, charity, and wedding events, she creates and produces more than 275 events per year. Holy moly. Both on the Warner Brothers studio lot in Burbank, California, and at outside venues. Harris's team services not only the Time Warner and Warner Brothers Entertainment clients, including Conan, the Ellen DeGeneres Show, Cartoon Network, and HBO, but also an impressive list of corporate clients that range from the CW Television Network and MTV to Mercedes-Benz and Apple. Nice job, Hillary.
Yeah.
That's great. Wow, you are important. I like it.
I don't know about important, but I'm having fun.
Well, first of all, that is a lot of events.
Yeah, it is. It keeps me on my toes. I'm never bored. But I've got to say, I have, just a wonderful team of people here working with me. There'd be no way that we could do this amount of, shows if I didn't have such a capable, wonderful group of professionals where we work together side by side. That makes all the difference.
You would have to.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been in this business a long time doing production, and I am amazed. That's a lot. How many people are in your team? Do you have
Well, it varies from. Sorry, my earbuds on.
No problem.
From project to project. I mean, typically there's 6 of us, on a regular basis.
Right.
But then, we just got off a big run. It's really good that we're talking now because, for the past 30 days, I've had one day off, which was Memorial Day.
Oh, no.
And so you've got me at a good time because I'm going to be taking, Thursday, Friday, and the weekend off. But, we bring, so since we've been really busy, I'll bring in additional people like a tech producer, logistics manager, somebody just to handle the phones, production assistants, things of that nature. So it's wonderful to be able to flex up, when you need to get you through your tough season, and then you can always flex back down to keep your operating costs at bay. So
right. Well, that's the nature of our business, isn't it?
Yeah, but one thing that I do want to add is that, I'm really lucky because here at Warner Brothers, part of my department are other divisions of the studio. So we have, a full set lighting division, we have electrical, we have scenic arts, we have all the crafts departments from design and construction to the metal shop to, the photo lab and just so many more. There's over 50 different divisions. So, it makes it really, really neat to be able to utilize those guys. And because we're family, they're there for you day and night, and they have to see you the next day, so they're not going to screw up.
Right. Totally, yeah. I totally get that. I mean, that's amazing, and so you can just come up and down and that's the key to having great events is being able to scale back and forth and sideways and forwards and everywhere.
And it's just having the neat relationships with the people, at the studio. I mean, we do have off-property vendors as well, but to be able to work with these guys, I just came off of a big Man of Steel press junket, and it was over Memorial Weekend, and I could not have done the show without all of our on-lot guys. It was really miraculous. The metal shop would build something for me, and then they'd take it right next door, walk it over to the paint shop. The paint shop would paint it,
wow.
And then they walk it over to the stage. And so, otherwise you'd be working with so many off-lot folks that wouldn't have the synergy, that we have here. And that's the beauty of all these crafts departments. And what people don't know, which is kind of a little hidden secret, is that anybody can use our crafts department. So any event planners can come to Warner Brothers, and I'd be more than happy to show them around and use our prop house and use our scenic arts guide.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's kind of a neat thing. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, they work with third-party clients, not just Warner Brothers stuff.
Wow. That's awesome. So why don't you step back a little bit and tell me a little bit about how Hillary Harris got into this crazy business in the first place?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's really stepping back. I won't mention years, but I actually, I started out really as a caterer. It was my love of food and wine. And I grew up on Lido Island, a little sleepy little place in Newport Beach. Now it's not so sleepy, but it used to be sleepy, years ago. And my dad was always passionate about food, and I know I'd watch The Galloping Gourmet and Julia Childs with him, and every weekend we'd travel around the world in the kitchen creating just wonderful dishes. And so I started out really in catering, and I loved it, and I thought at the time that for me, it was about doing social business, the A-list of Newport Beach. I thought that would be like the neatest thing until I started doing it. And then, I realized right away that, people wanted me to do more than just food, and that's really, I started out doing a lot of weddings, which is kind of interesting because we just, this past year opened up our wedding division at Warner Brothers. So I've kind of come full circle. Wow. But I was doing a lot of weddings and stuff like that. And I realized that people were having me do more stuff in decor and then in entertainment. And, back in those days, it wasn't so compartmentalized as it is today, where, they called you and you just kind of do everything. Mm-hmm. In fact, the word special events weren't even used. It was like you were a party planner, a caterer and a party planner. And so that's really how I got it through catering. And I had a business partner, and he was my stepdad. And I realized that the more corporate stuff that I did, I really loved it. It's like, bring it on. There seemed to be more challenges for me on a creative level to be able to work in a lot of the different elements of special events. And so my business partner took the social business, I took the corporate business. And what really prepared me for coming to Warner Brothers was I worked with a lot of builders and developers. And they, when Orange County was really in a boom market, this was like during the 1980s, those Reagan years. God, did we love those Reagan years. and they were building all of these big commercial buildings, and they used to do these broker open houses that were once a week. And the buildings were built out on the outside, but on the inside, it's like it was raw space. And so I had to come up with a theme, and it was always for about 1,000 people. And, what you wanted to do was really attract these brokers to the building. So, I always had beautiful girls, beautiful guys, and, just a really fun theme. And I had to bring in art direction and lighting. And it's really what prepared me for working on sound stages, because just like a sound stage that also has raw space, thus was the same for these broker open houses. And it really caused me to stretch my creative muscles to come up with different themes every single week.
Wow.
So that's kind of how it got started. And then, in the late 1980s, I was asked to cater the Warner Brothers Christmas party for 14,000 people. Ooh. And it was on a soundstage. And I did it, and I remember coming to the studio for the first time, and it's just so intimidating. Oh my gosh, you were at a studio, and I was so nervous. It was really funny, but I just psyched myself up, and I said, look, Hill, if you could do these big buildings of raw space, it's the same thing. It's just the same thing. Just do it. And so we did it, and it turned out well, and they just kept calling me back, and pretty soon, what happened was I was there pretty much on a weekly basis, and the head of the food services department asked if I could train their staff to be able to do events, because they wanted to do events on their own, and I said sure. So as events came in, I put proposals together and attempted to train the staff, but their staff was already so busy with their regular jobs, they really didn't have that much time for it. I just kept doing it. And then finally one day the president of the studio came to me and said, "Hey, do you think that this could be a revenue generating, division?" And I said,
Of course.
"Living all my life, I think so." And so, that's kind of how it happened. I think they interviewed, a few other people as well, but it's all about relationship building.
Right.
Yeah, it's really true. And they knew me and they knew my work, and they knew that if they said he'll make it a simple party, that doesn't mean you put Velon instead of real linen. It just means don't charge me a lot of money for this party. So I kind of understood their hidden language, and we had a mutual respect for one another, and thus began the relationship in 1993 of me being at Warner Brothers, and I developed the special events department. And this September, it will be my 20th anniversary of being.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
I know. I was just a young girl, and now I'm a woman.
And you don't hear that anymore these days. People move and move. So that's a testament to the whole place there.
Well, you know what? That you bring up a really good point, because we just did the service awards where for every 5 years of tenure you're given a little gift, and the chairman speaks to you and about what Warner Brothers is and what a family. And it's amazing how many people we have at the studio that have been here for over 35 years.
Wow.
That are working. And then once you retire, you still don't have to leave, because we've got a museum at the studio, and you can become a docent. And you can, and we, on all of our docents that come to work every day.
Really?
They're so adorable. And they've worked alongside Betty Davis and Joan Crawford and Humphrey Bogart, and they can tell you stories as you're going through the museum. So, yeah, you never have to leave. You just can stay forever.
That's pretty cool, actually.
It really kind of is. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess a lot of the studio stuff, though, too, if you're like involved in shows and stuff, you come and go, really. But if you're part of the actual core team there, you stay.
You do stay, but what's interesting about, a lot of television shows, especially over features, you'll get a core group of people, the grips and the audio guys and this, and they'll kind of travel with every new show. They'll, you find a group of people that you like to work with, and they'll go show to show, which is kind of neat too.
I guess that's with every. I mean, I do that with our teams. Or usually, you find some good people and you keep hiring them back.
Yeah, if you can find synergy within a group, that's what you want. That you want to keep that. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, that is very cool. Thank you for sharing. I mean, that's really cool. You have Ideafest coming up. You're going to be at. I might be at Ideafest, actually. I'm going to be able to look at you in the face there and say hello and like really meet instead of over the technology way.
Oh, that'd be fun. Yeah.
Yes, but you're going to be down there on June 19th at Ideafest at the Los Angeles Convention Center.
I will.
And you're going to be part of a panel with David, I can't remember what you said. You told
David
me.
Merrill, who is just wonderful. He's with AOO Events, and he's a really, really dear friend of mine, and he's a fellow designer and event producer. And River Davies, who has a design company called Riverworks. And River is, I've shared a glass of wine or two with River as well. So
fun.
Yeah, it'll be really, I'm really looking forward to this panel, because I really respect both of these guys, and we know each other socially, we know each other professionally, and I think it'll be a real interesting panel, each of us coming from really different perspectives.
That's very cool. Actually, when we started this podcast, it was myself, I have a production company doing corporate event stuff, and then a guy who was an AV guy, who was all AV, and then another guy who was a third-party planner, worked for Tom Hilmer, worked for a creative group out in Chicago, and we used to do this, have a weekly roundtable. It kind of evolved.
I love that.
It kind of evolved since then. Now it's basically just John and I. Tom couldn't really figure out how to turn on his iPhone, so it got he didn't really see the gist of it all, which was funny. He's a great guy, still great friend, but he kind of dropped off. But now John and I still do it. But interesting. It's interesting the relationships that you make. It's
very KCRW of you. I love it.
Actually, then John now started to work for me too. He was a vendor of mine. I used to hire his AV company, but then he came to work for me, which is also very interesting. Again, talking about relationships and how it works.
But you know what? You brought up a very good point, and I think it's really important that you develop really solid relationships, because in some projects you're working for somebody, and in another project they could be working for you. I found that this happens quite a bit, and so I've always tried to be really generous with information and with contacts and with, with my relationships with people, because things they change, they flip back and forth, and
You're
people
so
want
right.
to, they want to do business with people that they feel comfortable with.
You're so right. You're so right.
Yeah.
So the panel that you're on is What's New in Event Design.
Yeah.
And it is 11 to 12. If you're listening to this and you're going to be in LA at that time, please go to it. So let's talk a little bit about the panel itself and some of the questions that they might be talking about.
Sure.
So what, in your mind, is the state of event design today?
Well, I think, I think the big thing is that, and I'm speaking primarily with corporate business. It's all about brand management, and so much of our business is corporate, and I find that for corporations to be able to unlock their marketing dollars through the vehicle of a special event, it needs to be tied in with their brand. And so that's something that is kind of a new thing that's been happening. I mean, it's always been around, but it's like really, really important right now.
Yeah.
And so it's all about brand management. And it used to be that, brand management was, it used to be, well, we just need signage over here and
Right.
that kind of a thing. Or, a really good scripted program type of a thing. But now, it's really, brand management has progressed more into all fields of event production. I don't even want to say event design, but it's really all forms of event production, from, entertainment and food and beverage to all the new technologies we have in lighting and visual and special effects and that type of a thing. And really what I'm finding is that corporate clients want to have that brand experience from the moment guests step into the event and from the time that they leave. In fact, they want their attendees to walk away with specific messaging. And it's really the responsibility of the event producer, and to work with their vendors, one of which may be an event designer, to be able to pull that off.
I think that's fantastic. I've had that kind of, in my business, working with a lot of corporate clients, having the wanting to get into those conversations, and they are starting to happen more. But my connection would be through the meeting planner, and they may not even be thinking about that. They may not thinking about the brand or what they want to do. They're just thinking clearly logistics a lot of times. So I don't want to step on their toes. But you make a great point. I mean, because that's really what, if they're going to spend money on these things, they really want to
maximize their dollars.
Exactly.
And also I find that with like the corporate clients that we work with, because not only do I have clients that are Warner Brothers, Time Warner clients, but we do third-party business as well. And a lot of times they want really subtle messaging. So it's not like a sign in your face that says, drink this tequila, kind of a thing, or a big inflatable blow up of a tequila bottle. But they really, I think you have the responsibility of an event producer / designer to sit down with your client, and your client can be a meeting planner, or your client can be, directly a marketing person, or the ultimate client themselves. Sorry, my earbud just fell. These little suckers I need some bubble gum to keep them in my ears. But I think it's the responsibility to sit down with whoever's in charge and really ask questions, and I come to the table as a good listener, but I come to the table also, I ask a few questions like, who are the people? You need to find out a couple of things. You need to find out who's your target audience, and hopefully that will be your attendees. Sometimes it's not your attendees. But you need to find out, you're either marketing an asset, a property, a service, whatever it is that you're, marketing through the vehicle of a special event. And you need to find out who is your target market. You need to find out the demographics. Is it primarily male, female, children? What sort of age range you're looking at? And then you need to find out specifically what it is that you are marketing and really understand what they're trying to sell. And you need to ask enough questions and get enough materials from your client so that you really understand that service or that property or that asset that you've been charged with to market through the vehicle of a special event. And then lastly, what I always like to ask is, when your guests are walking out the door, what is the messaging that you want? What's the takeaway
Nice.
that you want them to have? And then once you kind of know that, what that takeaway is, then you can really start to plan and produce and design. At least that's how I do it.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think they don't even think about it, really, probably. I mean, that one last question that you had is fantastic. What do you want them to walk away with?
Yeah.
So what other responsibilities, what's in the responsibilities of an event designer? I love the idea of the whole thing, because you see how sheltered I am in my little corporate production world, that putting on meetings. But tell me more. Tell me more about tell me what the more responsibilities of an event designer.
Well, listen, I think that, when I design, and I'm kind of talking both because I'm an event producer and a designer, so I call myself a creative producer. But, because I've spent the past 20 years really in the Warner Brothers bubble, I really liken what I do to a filmmaker. And a filmmaker uses theatrical elements to create a sensory experience. He uses a script, he uses special effects, he'll use music and lighting and action and, art direction, and it just goes on and on and on. And if he does his job really well, he sucks you in as an audience goer. And if it's a scary movie, you scream. If it's a drama, you cry. If it's a really great comedy, you laugh. If it's something like, I have to say Man of Steel because that's opening up this Friday. You're on the edge of your seat. Please go. I want my stock to go up. And and when you walk away from a film where he'll try and do something different, something that you haven't seen before. And when he does that, you leave the theater feeling satiated, like you've just had a big meal that's been so satisfying. And then what do? You talk about it, you blog about it, you Facebook it, and you become the marketing arm for the property, and for the studio. Well, the exact same thing is true, I believe, in special events. It's exactly true. And even more so because in special events, it's really more of a 3D experience, because you can drink that specialty cocktail. You can eat that food. You can feel the textile of the linen on your table. You can your little tush can sit down on that furniture and feel what that furniture feels like. You really can experience it. So we as event producers / designers also use creative elements to tell the story, to create that sensory experience. And we use sometimes a good script as well. If you're doing a meeting or a main stage project or an award show, we use special effects, we use lighting, we have food, we have beverage, we have entertainment, we have music, we have everything to at our fingertips to be able to deliver the message for the client. And if we are smart enough to really zero in on what that brand is all about, and if we can do something unique and special, something that maybe people don't often see a lot of, as we're a little bit jaded here in LA because there's so many events on a daily basis. But if we can do something different, what it does is that it pulls the trigger on delivering the message that the client wants to send to their attendees. And that's what I feel the responsibility is of an event designer / producer.
Very cool. The whole story. That's great.
It's a
whole arcing story. Yeah. So do you think event design, the concept of event design has changed?
I do. And I think, and how could it not? And it really has to do with technology. It's continuing to change, and it will change, and it will evolve as, with our new technologies. We have digital video mapping that is amazing. I did my first digital video mapping event last year, and it was like one of the largest digital video mapping events in the United States last year. It was huge. And with holograms, and there's going to be somebody on the panel speaking about that.
Very cool.
And also motion picture capture. And I did, for the first time last year, I did a motion picture capture, which normally you only see in film. but I actually did it for the first time on an event, and it was just like really cool. Like there was literally somebody behind the scenes wearing the suit with the big green balls on it,
Oh my
all being
God.
filmed. Yeah,
Really?
and then it was animated and then projected 40 feet onto the side of a building, dancing. Yeah, it was really, really cool. So yes, there's going to be even more technologies. There's radio frequency identification that we're just now really exploring all of the widespread possibilities of playing with that kind of stuff. So listen, it just like what I said before, how design used to be more traditional. It used to be about furniture and textiles and florals and set pieces or main stage treatments. Now it's really expanded into everything has to do with design. I think at least that's how I look at it. I look that everything is creative. Every element of every event and every element of an event has the ability to tell a story.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit more before we go on to the digital video mapping. What you said it was the largest one. What did you do?
Yeah, well, it was really cool. I'll tell you about the challenge actually first. I have this wonderful client who's been a client of mine here at the studio for 20 years. And we do every year, in fact, I just finished it this year, LA screenings. Every single studio does LA screenings. And LA screenings is a week for every single studio where international television buyers come and visit and screen our television pilots. And every day you have a variety of different countries that come to screen. And then every other year at Warner Brothers, we do a big gala. Well, the gala year was last year, and my client, who is the head of worldwide marketing for television and animation, and who I deeply respect and admire, and is a true visionary, said to me, Hillary, this year I've got our theme. I said, great, what is it? She said, I want guests to walk into the Ginza. I said, okay. And the Ginza is, think of Times Square on steroids, Asian style. And I said, okay, that's the Ginza. And she goes, I want techno music and I want really cool food. I want food to be spray painted metallic gold or silver and just all this kind of wild stuff. I said, great. Well, typically we start off with one theme and then we lead guests, and there's usually about 1,500 guests, into another backlot location where then it transitions into a second theme. And I said, okay, well, what backlot do you want to go to for the transition? She goes, I don't. I want to stay on the same lot. And I said, well, what is your transition? She said, African voodoo tribal. And I thought, okay. And I was quiet. She was looking at me. She goes, did I stump you? I said, let me think. So you want to go for the busy, neon, blinking, high-tech Ginza environment. And she goes, and then I'll give you 3 minutes of total darkness. And then we transition to a African tribal, sort of voodoo tribal thing. She said, that's exactly it. And I'll send you some images on Pinterest that are, some images that are amused to me. I said, okay. And I said, well, there is one way that you could do this. You can actually change your environment. Instead of having art direction on all of the buildings and in the street, we could do this through digital video mapping. And she said, what's that? And I went online and showed her the technology. And I said, you have the ability to 3D animate images onto buildings. We actually go out and map buildings. And what they do is they go out, they take a picture of the building, then from that they create a grid. And within each grid, it's space, the animator animates. And then you go through special blending software and it becomes, 3D digital,
Wow.
video.
Very cool.
And so that's what we did. And it was so cool because we started out with the Ginza thing. And then the president of Warner Brothers International Television got on and said, do you like this party? And everybody said, yeah. He goes, I don't. Let's blow up this backlot. And so we had a plunger that special effects made. And as he pressed down on the plunger, all the sparks flew up, which led to digital video mapping on the buildings of explosions going up to the rooftops. And when it got to the rooftops, it actually triggered pyrotechnics, real pyrotechnics that I had on the rooftops. And
wow.
but to make this whole thing more real, I hired an audio specialist to do soundscaping. So we had soundscaping of the Ginza, very techno, and cars and honking horns and everything you would hear there. And then with the explosions, we soundscaped that. And then when it went to total darkness, everything was quiet, except I had two didgeridoo players that were strapped into these 45-foot buildings and playing didgeridoo. So you heard that. And then slowly flames projected onto the bottom of the building kind of grew and came out the windows and grew to the rooftops. And then the music just kind of grew and grew as well with it. And we had 108 African performers, come into the event space.
Wow.
And that's what started the real, party of the evening.
Holy moly.
I know, it was awesome.
That's very cool.
Yeah. Go on my website, you can see a video.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I will, for sure.
Yeah.
So tell me now what you think the next big trend in event design's going to be.
The next big trend. Well, oh my gosh, any
ideas or anything that?
Well,
besides
listen.
all this mapping of buildings and explosions.
So funny. Well, there have been so many trends. First of all, there's been so many trends this year that, I mean, it's like I've never worked in so many different mediums this year of all of the years, 30 some odd years that I've been doing event production, because we're so influenced by Hollywood and pop culture. And there were so many incredible ideas out there. We all did I did the tribal world ethnic thing. I did a fairy tale fantasy thing, because the vampire stuff is not as strong anymore as the fairy tale stuff. And it's just really, really building. So a lot of people wanted that. And then, of course, we did a little movie called The Great Gatsby.
Right.
And so, Gatsby and Downton Abbey, that's really been inspirational this year as well, with, 1920 stuff and vintage stuff. And then don't forget the steampunk and Art Deco kind of stuff, which if you saw the Academy Awards, that was a combo of steampunk and Art Deco, which was really kind of fun. So there's been so many different things, different mediums, but I think if you're really going to look to the future as to what the next best thing is, you really have to look at and get a clue from Hollywood and pop culture. And I watch an awful lot of filmed entertainment. And what's kind of interesting is that production designers, they design 3 years out, because if you think about it, year one, you're making the film and it's 3 to 4 months, to make the movie. Year two, the movie releases. Year three, it's on DVD. So they've got to be 3 years ahead of trend.
Wow.
So that's why I think it's really good, if you want to know what the next best thing is to really, I watch a lot of television. I go see a lot of movies. If you really want to know futuristic stuff, I mean, I think science fiction and fantasy stuff is really, it's very inspirational to me. I love it. And then as far as pop culture is concerned, you can go online and Google fashion shows. If you look at the fashion shows with the couturier fashion houses from all over the world, from Milan and Paris and Asia and all over, they're at least 6 to 9 months ahead, because they have to work seasons ahead. But you can Google them and go online. And why this is really neat is because it helps you with color, it helps you with textiles, it helps you with theme. And speaking of textiles, go to the textile show. It hits, East Coast, West Coast, and it comes to Los Angeles. I think it's in March. It was this year. And it's so inspirational to see all of the new fabrics that are out there. And then it's great because you can source it and you can find out who the manufacturers are and buy directly from those sources. And that's what I do, because my biggest, I think, frustration is that I know what I want to do. I have a sense of what the trend is, but I have to make it or build it myself, because it's not out there yet. And by the time, like I was all over burlap before burlap was big. And then, this year everybody's got burlap. Well, now I'm not that interested in burlap anymore. So now I'm on to something else. So I think, have an acquisitive mind, get off your butt, go out and really check out stuff. And something that I was talking to one of the art directors from Man of Steel, having just worked side by side with this guy, such a great guy, Adam Foreman. over the past few weeks. And we had a really cool experience where we walked into the metal shop and on lot, and we were trying to create these kind of frames for signage, not signage, but movie art that we were building into these posters, and we wanted to do these really cool frames. We didn't know half the gadgets and beams, and we didn't know what stuff was, but we just were pulling stuff that visually felt right for each set that we were trying to recreate.
How cool.
And he brought up a point that I am in total agreement with, that sometimes it's really good to be able to go to a place and that you're not familiar with and just look at stuff around you, just strictly not understanding it, but just for the aesthetics of it. Because when you do that, then you can look at something that was intended for one type of purpose and bundle it together or change it a little bit, mix it with other stuff to create something fresh and new. And I've done that before. I'll go into Pep Boys. I know nothing about, the guts of cars. But I remember I was working on Terminator years ago, and I needed napkin rings, and I found hose clamps. I went up to the box. I go, man, these are cool. What are they? Hose clamps. I don't know what a hose clamp does, but it's like a really great napkin ring. And they were cheap, and I bought them. So, I think guys that are unfamiliar with a lot of the territory maybe that women usually walk into, and women that are unfamiliar with territories that men feel comfortable with, I think it's good to explore each other's territory and look at things from a different perspective, where I don't know what this is, but it's just so cool, I want to use it.
It's so funny. I know two creative directors that I've used in the past that I just think they're fantastic, and a lot of time I can't get them because they're so busy, but they said the same thing that you just said, both of them, and they said they always are watching everything, like all the TV shows, and they're going to see all the plays in New York, and then to see the fashions and stuff with that, and it's just interesting. And I just got an email from one of them. His name Tom Bester. He's a really nice guy up here, and he just sent this whole synopsis of all the plays and stuff that he went to. He went to a gazillion of them. But anyway, it's interesting. All the creatives, great creative minds, it sounds like, that are out there doing it. So something to learn for the listeners. Get out there.
Yeah, everybody can do it. I mean, I think creativity is, I've always said this, creativity is a muscle, and all you have to do is exercise it. And you'll feel more comfortable stretching your creative juices the more you do it. Like Nike, you just got to get out there and do it. You've got to put yourself in situations where you're exploring, and it's just starting out by taking walks and window shopping and going into stores and just looking at stuff. Your mind is like a little, IBM file, a computer bank, and it'll store all of this kind of stuff. And then when a project comes up, you'll remember things that it'll be so subconscious that you don't even know, oh yeah, I saw these clothes and they did these really unique colors, how they work these colors together that normally I wouldn't think would go, but this would be perfect for that. Or I saw this kind of artifact in this store and yeah, that's great. Or, I went into Jonathan Adler's and I saw his salt and pepper shakers. Perfect for a cake topper for a wedding, and, you just never can tell what your mind will bring back into your conscious self if you just get out there and experience life.
Yes. So cool.
Yeah.
Hillary, thank you very much for speaking with me.
Oh, gosh, it was a pleasure. I can hardly wait to just wrap my arms around you and give you a big old fat hug.
I'm going to hold you to that. So where can people find you if they wanted to find you? What besides coming to Ideafest on June 19th, what's the time? 10, 11 to 12 or something? 12?
Yeah.
11 to 12 at Petree Hall, LA Convention Center.
Awesome.
Anyway, where can they find you?
Well, they can come there and please come up to me and say hello. I'm a really friendly person, so I really enjoy meeting everybody and swapping lies and all that kind of stuff. I can be reached through my website, wbspecialevents.com. Or you can tweet us at WB Special Events.
Perfect.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. Or, just email me at hillary.harris@warnerbrothers.com.
Perfect.
I'm going to get tons of emails. I hope.
Yeah.
It'll be fun. Make new friends.
Yes. All right, Hillary. Well, thank you so much. And I will see you down there myself. And I look forward to the hug. And again,
Yeah.
thank you so much.
That's my
And
pleasure.
I'd love to have you back on eventually when you're
I'd
doing
love
more
it.
cool stuff. Okay.
It was fun.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
We appreciate and thank you for listening to the Meetings Podcast. Please email with any questions or comments to meetingspodcast@gmail.com. Meetings Podcast is sponsored by IMEX America, America's worldwide exhibition for incentive travel, meetings, and events. The Meetings Podcast theme music is brought to you by the Delgado Brothers, which can be found at delgadobrothers.com.